Hey, Solo.
What's
How
up,
you
Paula?
doing? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I like the extra sound effects. That was
Right?
it. The production value just continues to rise, audience.
Hey, that's what we're here about. Well, welcome to Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real. This is our 8th episode. Can you believe it, Chris?
Is it
This
number
is
8?
number 8. It's number 8 since we
That's wild.
started. Yeah, and today we're going to talk about from rock bottom stories of redemption and resilience. For those who don't know, my name is Paula Bell, also known as Ninja P, and I am here with my co-host Solo. So how are you doing today, Solo? Are you excited for this episode?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. To be perfectly honest, I have been in a weird spot. I got a 7-week-old little one, and the lack of sleep, the taking care of my wife, right? Because I don't know how you ladies do it. Like, I don't know how you do it. I had the awesome experience of my doctor wanting to make sure that I was involved, aka, hey, hold this foot and help out with this delivery. So I got to see the whole shebang, and then the road to recovery after the shebang, and the constant attached to the hip because we're, breastfeeding. It's just hard. Like, I don't know how you do it. I got 6 weeks of paternity leave, so I haven't been at work. And I've gotten to get a glimpse of what it means to truly be a 100% full-time like parent. And I just want to thank all you moms for being so momming, because if it was up to dads, the human race would have been extinct a long time ago. We wouldn't have made it. We wouldn't have made it. So I'm doing good. It feels good to get back into a routine. I feel a little guilty not, being there to change poopy diapers and do that kind of stuff. But right after this, I'm going to go right back to the grind. So I'm excited to literally get my hands dirty.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging all the moms out there and all the things we go through as females to not only carry a child, but bring a child into this world, and then all the nurturing that goes after it as well. So I'm quite sure all the moms out there appreciate you for saying that.
I know it might sound ignorant, but I'll just say this. Like, I just realized something recently. Like, you women made all the babies. Like, all the babies. You baked and birthed all the babies. So thank you for the human race. And we had a hand in it, but more of the exciting part. And you all had to deal with what you all had to deal with to make sure we are who we are. And I just wanted to thank. I just wanted to call that out because my wife's phenomenal. That and my mother is phenomenal. My grandma's phenomenal. And I think about like the matriarchs and just my family and I surround myself with. And it's just, I got to really experience it the last 6 weeks, 24/7. And it really has just been mind blowing. So thank you, Paula. Thank you for being you.
Oh, well, I appreciate you. That was great to hear today, actually. But before we jump into our deep conversation, and Lady J has joined, so you'll get to be able to introduce her. But before we go into introductions, I just want to put some disclaimers out there. We are not therapists. We do not offer any medical advice whatsoever. We are not trained, qualified, or able to diagnose any form of mental illness or disorder. Some topics that we have may be triggering, so we do want you to know that. But the purpose of this show is to really just have real and authentic conversations that provides wisdom to us all, because we always learn from each other. And at the end, you'll be able to see how you can stay connected with us. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channels and any social media that we're on. But enough about that. Why don't we go ahead and jump in? Solo, who's joining us today? We've got Lady J in the
Lady
back
J.
here, so yeah.
Lady J is probably, I'll say it. Lady J is my favorite guest. She keeps it real and she's wise. And I just enjoy talking to the guests that we have, because I feel like I learn more from the people that we have on here than I ever bestow on the audience. And to your point, we just want to have a real authentic conversation, and hopefully, maybe just maybe, because of our back and forth banter, our crazy, somebody could be a little bit better off, or just feel not crazy, right? How often do you just feel crazy for feelings like I've hit rock bottom, or I'm going through this struggle, or
right?
So I appreciate it. And Lady J always brings the fire. Janae specifically is a master life coach with the focus in guided meditation. I found my mindfulness game is always picks just my overall life up. And she's really good at goal setting as well, which is huge. She grew up in Lexington, didn't she, Paula? Right there, Lexington, Kentucky.
She did. She
She's in the
did.
Air Force too, right? So she was a
Yes.
military veteran. So thank you for that. And
Mm-hmm.
shortly after high school, that's when she jumped right into the Air Force, I believe. So she was
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she was right out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she mentioned that she loves pushing others, pushing them to be the best version of themselves. And she loves doing
Right.
so through the life coaching that she does, the mindful meditation and fitness. Really, two of her main goals is to really get someone's fitness on point, their body and their mind and spirit, right? With the life coaching. She also takes pride in her work. I know she does. And really strives to be a positive example for everyone who follows her. And she has a
Mm-hmm.
good following. Her social media following is a hit. And you all watching or
Yes, it
listening to the
is.
recording should check out Lady J. But I think the biggest thing that really touches me more so now than ever, because I just talked about this 7-week-old little one, and I have a 2.5-year-old as well, is she says that her biggest accomplishment are her children. And I think that that's awesome. So,
Yes.
Lady J, everyone,
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello,
what's up,
hello. I'm
Lady
so
J?
excited. When are you
Wait.
guys doing
I
this?
gotta give the
Hit it.
applause.
I've
Yes,
got
the
new sound
applause.
effects.
Yes.
She's got new sound effects.
Just had to throw that in there really quick.
I'm
Welcome,
excited to be
Lady
here.
J. Glad
Yes.
that you could join us today. How's your day been going?
Whew, today's been a day.
I
Has
The
it?
week
understand.
has been weeking. Like oh gosh, but it's been good. I'm off work now, so it's time to decompress and have some fun with this podcast. I'm excited.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in, and this is for and any of us to answer as I'm playing. As you can see, I'm playing with my camera here, so anybody can take this one. But can you take us back to a moment when you hit rock bottom? What were the emotions and thoughts that you experienced at the time of hitting rock bottom?
I would have to say rock bottom would be my divorce.
Mm, I know
Yes.
a lot of people can relate to that. Why would you say that was your rock bottom?
And it wasn't necessarily letting go of the divorce, it was just everything involved.
Mm,
Um, you really get to see who people are
What do you
mm,
mean?
and when you go through something like that. And not even necessarily the person that you are separating from, but your friends, your
Really?
family. Um, you really get to see who is actually in your corner when you go through something as life altering as a divorce. So I would have to say, hands down, that would be when I hit rock bottom.
Dang.
Hmm.
Sounds like you didn't lose just the husband relationship, but some
I
friendships,
did.
family as well.
Yes.
What was that
It's,
about? Why?
well, I wouldn't say that I lost a lot of family because if they stopped talking to me, then we weren't really talking, before that all happened. But the friends definitely, those that knew the ex before I came into the
Ah,
picture, but we developed such a strong, what I thought was a strong relationship um, throughout those years, and then just to see like no communication
that
with me at
sucks.
all, not even asking how you are, not nothing. Um, and it was just eye opening. It was very sobering. Like, wow, you really like the emotions that I felt were I was so alone. I remember feeling so alone. And shout out to my mom though. Shout out to my mom because my mom was definitely in my corner. She checked on me. And mind you, 2,000 miles difference. So it wasn't like she could just drive around the corner and check on me. But
mm-hmm,
she definitely made sure that I was okay mentally. That that I was still that I was still eating, that I was still pressing forward in a
Mm-hmm.
positive way. So I'm very thankful and grateful to my mom for that. Um, and I had a couple of mentors slash friends on the work side that definitely helped me out as well.
In your
So
corner.
shout out to them as well. But when you go through something like that, the emotions can go from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And one day you can be like, okay, I can do this. I'm moving forward. And then the next day or even the next hour, you're like, this sucks. This absolutely sucks. I hate everything about this process. Why did I not see this before so that I didn't
Yeah.
have to go through all of this? Hindsight is 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to say the entire experience definitely made me stronger. It helped me find, I wouldn't say it helped me find who I am, but it definitely put me um, on the path to find out who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing in this lifetime, and really loving myself first. That is what I learned out of this whole rock bottom.
Have you been able to connect the dots? Like, I don't mean to like jump too far into your business, like, but like, what was it? Like, what did the divorce lead to that led you on this path to who you are now? And if you hadn't gone through it, like, you wouldn't have run into that person or thought that thought or done that thing. Have you pieced those breadcrumbs together yet?
You know what? I haven't. But what I will say is some of the things that I'm experiencing now, both good and some like, just kind of meh, um, things that I'm experiencing now have the divorce has better prepared me
I got you.
to deal with what's ahead
Right.
and to really discern who I allow in my inner circle,
Right.
to really figure out who is worthy of my time, my presence, my help. Because I did help quite a bit, hands down, no questions asked. But then when you look back at it, it's like, dang, when I needed help, nobody was there.
Mm.
Mm.
And so um, it better equipped me to get me on the path. It's kind of like when you're taking a road trip. I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Got
You're a
one
road
coming up
tripper?
this weekend. I do
Mm-hmm.
a lot of road trips. So when you're on a road trip and all of a sudden you hit like a detour or you decide to take, your GPS gives you an alternate route, or this is going to save you 20 minutes if you go left instead of straight.
Right.
Um, when that happens, sometimes when you take that detour, you end up not saving time because the GPS can only see so much. And so you're at that decision and you have to make that decision, and you can't stay in the middle. You have to choose a path. So choosing that detour for me, which I never thought in a million years that I would be divorced, like ever. So it was definitely a eye-opening experience. And I believe that I had like some shame about it too.
Really?
Like, you just, because you've been with, your significant other for years,
Oh, yeah.
and then all of a sudden, like, your foundation is destroyed. That,
Right.
like, what you have built together is gone, finito. So I felt like ashamed. Like, I didn't want to be like, I didn't want that label. I felt like everywhere I walked, everywhere I turned, that's what
You're the
people saw.
divorced one.
Just
Right.
put divorce right there on my
Divorce, the
forehead.
scarlet letter, but we have a D.
Yes. So that was and it was really, it was painful. I stayed to myself. I had to find things to keep my mind occupied. That was when I really hit my fitness journey hard. I actually started it before the divorce and everything, but I really hit it hard when I was going through it, because that was my new foundation. I
Yeah.
had to do something physically to keep my mind going, to keep it
Gotcha.
strong, to keep it from overthinking and just going every which way. So I started teaching classes and getting into other fitness genres, and that's actually how I found extreme hip hop. So that I'm very grateful for that. But you hit this detour, and you can't turn back. You have to keep going. And that's where I found myself. So although it took me longer to get to where I am now, I'm a better person for it. And I can't, I have a
Wouldn't
hard
trade it
time
for the world.
regretting it. What's that?
You wouldn't trade it for the world.
I wouldn't.
That's awesome.
The level of peace that I have now is unmatched.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've hit a bunch of rock bottoms, I'll be honest.
So you're one of those people who you just don't learn it the first time. You just got to keep going
I
through
don't know. I don't know if I at least I bounce, because I always bounce back. But I've hit a couple rock bottoms. Keeping to the relational rock bottom. So I was in this relationship, right? And to me, this was the one. Like spiritually, we connected. Intellectually, we connected. She was bad. And I was smitten. I was so smitten. But it was one of those relationships. I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you probably have, but you have those relationships where like you kind of had to like morph and change yourself because you didn't quite feel like your own self fit into the relationship mold, and you wanted the relationship so bad you were willing to sacrifice and lose yourself for the relationship. And I lost myself like hard. Like I kind of cut myself off from my friends, cut myself off from the things that I really like to do. And I was like living this life that I didn't really like, but I sacrificed it because I just loved her so much. Lo and behold, you want to hear something crazy? So we had been getting into it, right? She had joined one of these like multi-level marketing things, pyramid scam. And the dude who started it, old money, his son got jets and Bentleys, was taking her under his wing and teaching her the business. So we're talking like he's flying her out different places and taking her under the wing. And I had a problem with that, This baller's stealing my girl is essentially how it felt. And we got into this argument, this back and forth thing, like, oh, you don't want me to be successful, yada yada. It's not about that. It's just that I'm a little uncomfortable with baller, shot caller sending you out to the Bahamas for a private one-on-one retreat session, and then you guys are gonna go snorkeling later and you're looking all tan and stuff when you come home. You know what I mean? It's like, that don't seem cool to me, right? Doesn't pass the sniff test. So we were getting into it. It was around Christmas time. She's like, look, we're getting into it. We're arguing. Let's do Christmas early. Let's give each other our gifts early. And I'm like, all right, cool. I went all out, spent thousands of dollars on it. Jewelry, perfumes, clothes, different things that she liked, paid attention, making lists because I really cared about her. Before she did this, 20 minutes later, I heard like in the kitchen, like, I'm like, what the hell is she doing back there? But after she said the whole, let's do gifts early, and she came out with 2 gift bags, and in these gift bags were IOUs, I knew what she was doing back there. She's like ripping out IOU X gift. And it was like, it was good. We had talked, I've always wanted to be a pilot. IOU plane flight lessons. Like, I'm getting you plane flight lessons. Like, I already got them. I just don't know when to set them up. She said that I had a good singing voice. So IOU singing lessons, because I want you to develop that voice, whatever. I thought it was sweet. It was cool. Lo and behold, the next day, I had a fishing trip with my dad and brother. While I was going on that trip, I came home and all of her stuff was gone. Like, moved out, gone. Like, took everything, took even some of my stuff, like some of the stuff that was my stuff. I had it before, right? Ended up ripping up all of like the cards that we had gotten each other over the years, Valentine's Day, birthday cards, like, and just had the trash can, like, not even under the sink, but like out in the kitchen with all of the stuff ripped up, sitting on it, like dug in deep. And it just ripped my heart out of my chest. Like, I had everything invested in her. I left everyone, said F everything. And I just felt like I was at such a rock bottom. Like, I'm a grown man sitting in my closet, bawling my eyes out, like journaling my thoughts. You know what I mean? Like journaling. And I'm not a journaler for the audience to know. I'm not like, I'm not keeping a journal of my thoughts, but I'm in there journaling. I got ice cream, I'm eating it. I was jacked up, and I just felt it was like the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And I never thought I'd recover from this because she was the one in this life was the one. Fast forward 10 years. I really meet the one. Fast forward another 10 years. I have children with the real one. I'm sitting here, now in a place where I never would have been where I was if I would have been with her. Like, I'm far more successful. Like, she was the catalyst to say, oh, okay, watch what I do, right? Watch what I do, because I wasn't good enough. Because that's how I felt. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I thank God for unanswered prayer sometimes, because I prayed so many times, so many nights, that she would take me back or things would mend or whatever. I felt ashamed that I wasn't enough, Lady J. I felt like ashamed of, like, I cut all these people off because of her and it was just over. And I found something so much better, so much higher, so much greater, a person that gets me so much more, and person that like thank God for unanswered prayers. Like, he wasn't just like, yep, here you go, I'll get her back. I didn't, because I didn't want her. I ended up finding that journal of like what I was journaling in that closet, bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, oh my God, bro, like, relax. Like, relax. I was in shambles. And I look at how far I've come, and I just got this overwhelming sense of just reverence for God for bringing me from there to here. Like, I started from the bottom, now I'm here. And that's like what hit me at the time, like that song, that lyric, because it was the contrast from the depths of despair that I was looking at and remember experiencing to the mountaintop of where I am now, and the contrast between the two that like gave me this reverence and this feeling of just peace and just feeling of goodness. And it just reminded me of, we live in this world of relativity, right? Like, you have to be down to be up. You have to know what cold is in to experience warmth. And those of us who have been freezing at the top of Mount Everest and gotten frostbite and the scars to prove it are truly the ones that can appreciate like a sunny day with the sun on their face more than the ones that have never experienced the cold. So I think that cold, that frostbite that I felt back in the day in that closet really is what gave me the appreciation of the life that I live now. And to your point, Lady J, set me on the path to even be able to live it in the first place. It just sucks at the time. Like, it sucks. People say, well, what advice would you give yourself back in the day? It's like, look, bro, don't kill yourself, because reading this journal, you were in shambles. And at the time, you think that your whole life is something, and you think about things like making permanent decisions for temporary issues. And it's just, I wish I could tell somebody who may be at that point of rock bottom where they don't see any way out, and they think that maybe ending it is the answer, because I thought those thoughts, and that was in that journal, that it's not. And you have so much more to look forward to. And there's so much beauty on the other side of this pain. And the pain is actually what's necessary for you to experience that beauty that you deserve. But it ain't going to get any easier. And you just got to grit your teeth and get through it. Like, no one likes a roller coaster that's flying off the tracks. Don't enjoy it. You just hang on. So just hang on. If you're in that spot right now and you're listening to this, I don't know who you are. I don't know who this message is for, but just hang on, because you'll be looking back one day, reading your journal or going over your thoughts, whatever, if you're like me, and you'll be like, damn, I'm glad that I didn't give up in that moment, because everything in my mind, a legion of voices were telling me to throw in the towel, and I didn't. And now I'm at a beautiful place. So that's kind of what I think.
Your test is your testimony, right?
It is. It really is.
I mean, it does come back to that the things that you go through definitely makes you stronger. But people, there's a lot of different adages that people say, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Your test is your testimony. This too shall pass. On the other side of this is strength. I mean, all that stuff is really true. It doesn't feel like it as you're going through it, though, as you're going through the trial and the tribulation.
Nope.
But it does, when you look back on it, you can see how that particular situation you went through is actually your testimony to help somebody else either not go through it or help them through it that needs that support that you may not have needed at that time, or you might have had a different sort of support, right? But they definitely need that support, somebody to say to them, you know what, you can make it through this. How do I know? Because I'm a witness. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking to somebody who went through it. And so I understand the things that you're going through right now. And look at me. I'm still here. I'm still standing. And you fall down, but you get right back up, like Donnie McClurkin said, right? You gotta get back up again and go forth. But yeah, those sort of rock bottom moments are just insane. And it seems like all of us have had rock bottom moments from a relationship perspective. I went through a divorce as well, and I know what that feels like. And you know, just, you've heard people say divorce is like a death, and it is. It definitely is. It's one of those things where you put, both sides have invested something into that relationship, whether it's equal or not, but they've invested something, and you've put a lot of time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears into that thing. And you might have even birthed other human beings out of that thing.
That's a good point.
Right. And now that thing doesn't work anymore. And so now you have to figure out how do you navigate this world, this life, with a human being that you really don't want to be around anymore, talk to, but you have kids with. You know, there's a lot of dynamics that go to that. And so it's hard when you get hit with that. But let me ask this question. So we talked about hitting rock bottom from a relationship perspective. Is there any other aspect of your life where you've actually hit rock bottom?
How much time you got, audience? How much time you got?
Chris, we're going to be done. We're going to be done in 30. So you
I know. I have another rock bottom, which was my own making. And you could argue that this was a dual making, and the relationship thing one was my own making too, right? But this was just because of, so let me put it this way. When I was young, like a lot of, boys my age, I was a video game player. Were you ladies video game players? Were you gamers?
I did some.
I did some.
You dabbled. You dabbled. So, Paula, you probably know. You remember Halo back in the day? You ever play Halo?
I played Halo.
Halo. Lady J, you may not know what's good with Halo, but Halo was a hit. That was back in the day when like the internet wasn't really a thing. You know what I mean? So like Halo was the first game where you could like plug your video game systems into each other, and you had a bunch of people come over, and you had like LAN parties, local area network video game parties, where you were shooting things and aliens and all kinds of stuff, right? So I had an Xbox, which you played Halo on, and that's all I had, because of my poor decisions, because of my, I would say, substance abuse, addiction to partying and having fun and not handling my business, my lack of discipline, and just my overall immaturity.
Well, good grief, Solo. You don't paint a great picture of yourself.
I'm just saying. But I had Xbox. And I had Halo. But I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. I had no money to my name, but I had an Xbox. So I was literally couch surfing, friend to friend, group to group, because we could play Halo. And I would play so late. I remember showing up tactically. If I showed up at 9, we could play long enough where I would have a good excuse to sleep on your couch. And I did that because I had made so many poor decisions that I had nowhere to go. And finally, one of my buddies called me on my BS and said, "Hey, you can sleep in my closet because I have a long closet and there's a box spring in there." And I was sleeping in some dude's closet with their funky socks and underwear on a box spring, with no money to my name, no future. Family had turned their back on me because of the poor decisions. And an Xbox is the only thing to keep me warm. And I remember, I don't know what's up with me and crying in closets, but it was another rough moment where I was in a closet. I didn't have a journal this time, but I did have a prayer life and a grandmother who prayed for me. And I remember praying to God, asking for help. And he gave it to me. And I can't tell you the steps that he did. And he didn't hit me with no bolt of electricity that just gave me everything that I needed. But one opportunity after another opportunity after another opportunity led to me going from that place of just a complete lack of sense of self-worth, discipline, to, I'd like to think that I have more than Xbox now. And from that rock bottom really came a lot of understanding about who I was, what I truly valued, and the type of discipline, energy, focus, and just lifestyle I would need to truly become the best version of me. And the best version of me is the only thing that was going to keep me from being that poor, broke, couch surfing, crying in the closet version that I was then. And now that I look back, man, I've come a long way since that box spring. I just swooped a $6,000 Tempur-Pedic a couple months ago.
Yeah, you've come a
And
long way.
And that feels good. That feels good.
Mhm.
And that was another rock bottom. And thank God for that too. Thank God for that too. Because I think that if I wouldn't have hit that rock bottom, I could potentially be the drinker that I was back then, the partier that I was back then, the undisciplined version that I was back then. And it's good. And I say that because of this. I'm sorry I'm galvanizing the conversation, but I had an inspired thought here. So I'll be vulnerable with you. I was a drug user. I'm not smoking crack or injecting anything, okay? Like, relax, audience.
All right.
I smoked a little weed, and I drank a lot, and I dabbled in some things. And there was one time, a few times actually, where I tried some harder drugs. I was young, and someone had some pills. And I don't know if you've ever experienced pills before, but a lot of people get hooked on pills because they're opiates. And then what do they go to after they get hooked on pills? Do you know? Heroin's the next step because it's the same opiate. It's the same drug. And once you're on heroin, for those of you who have ever seen people in that life and have experienced it, it's a wrap. It's almost assured you're not going to make it. So my buddy had some pills, which was the door, the door to my ultimate demise. And there were these little, I would say there were these little bars, these little tiny pills, and they were OxyContin, which is a very high painkiller. Y'all ever had some OxyContins before?
Yes.
A lot of people have oxycodone, but the OxyContins are on a whole nother level. Yeah, you probably experienced it, Paula. You've had surgery.
Yeah, I had C-section, so I was on some heavy hitter stuff. Yeah.
So he's like, here, I'm going to give you a little sliver. Trust me, it'll get you messed up. And I'm like, look, bro, like, I work out. I'm a big dude. A little sliver. He's like, just trust me. You don't need anything more than a little sliver. He went to the bathroom, right? I got a little bigger sliver than he gave me. Just hit it. I was so sick that I puked my guts out. I couldn't open my eyes. I almost had to go to the hospital. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And you want to know what? To this day, I'm scared of taking Tylenol, ibuprofen. If I hurt myself and they try to give me anything heavier, like Tylenol 3, oxycodone, Vicodin, anything like that, I'm like, no. Because the feeling of that, like that nausea feeling, that feeling that I got, because I went so hard and I almost died, I felt. My body was just like, nope. But the skimming the surface, I drank and I had a good time. I smoked a little bit of weed, nothing bad happened to me. That led to me continuing to do that and it almost ruining me for good. So I feel like these rock bottom moments, these terrible things that happen to us are actually a blessing in disguise because they make us wake up and they make us, to your point, Lady J, look at our surroundings and notice that this is not where I want to be and never again am I going to go here. So your radar is always alert. I feel that feeling again. I ain't going there. I ain't touching that painkiller. Ooh, that seems kind of like a shady friend like I had before in that marriage. Nope, I'm not letting them get close. They're not hurting me again. And it like gives you this awareness that you wouldn't have had. And they say that awareness is really the most important thing that we have because the lack of awareness lets things sneak up on us. And if things sneak up on us, they could really take us out. So I thank God for some of these rock bottom moments. I thank God for some of these terrible decisions that I made to lead me to these terrible places because I hit that ground so hard that I will never forget it. I'll never forget what it led me to that box spring. I'll never forget what led me to changing who I am for another person that I was trying to play up to. And I'll never do it again, ever. So that's just kind of a thought I wanted to share with you and anyone listening.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that was real vulnerable. And I do think a lot of times facing our vulnerabilities can be the difficult part, right? Because especially when you're trying to connect with other people, And if you want them to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable as well. And so I know what it feels like to not know where your next meal is coming from, to not know where you're going to be laying your head down, to not know what your next job's going to be because you don't have a job and you're trying to find it, and you don't know if you're going to be able to pay your rent if you're lucky
Yep.
enough to have some place to stay, or pay your car
Yep.
payment if you're living in your car and it's not paid off, or if you again need to get medication or need to get food. How am I going to do that when I don't have the funds or the money? I mean, I've lived through all of that, where you just, you hit those points in time where you just don't know what's going to
Yeah.
come next, and you're almost like, my, what's next? Like, what's going to come? Am I ever going to get out of this vicious cycle of constant trials and tribulations? I'm like, you're almost scared to ask, what more can I take? Or you start to really question even your faith. You might
Yeah.
even begin to doubt, are you even hearing me up there? Or
Yeah.
whoever your spiritual faith is, right? So it's those sort of times that really hurt. But Lady J, I got a question for you. And so you can come in and answer this as well. So we talked about, you both have said it, you've had those situations where you've hit rock bottom and you made a decision that I'm not going to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard decision to make when you're in it, especially when you're having those moments where you're feeling shame, grief, guilt, not worthy, and all of that. Chris Solo, you talked about suicide. Y'all have heard my story when I have attempted that. And so you hit that point where you just don't think you're worthy. What did you do? Or what was that turning point for you that led you from rock bottom to redemption? Okay, I'm going to get out of this thing now. I'm tired of being here. What was that turning point for you?
It's a good question.
Very good question. The turning point was waking up one day and realizing that what you're currently in is not going to change. Although familiar, it's not going to get better. But there is the potential to be and do so much better if you leave your current situation.
For me, I didn't really have a turning point. I had a turning person. Like, there was nothing going on in my mind but trash and shadows and darkness. And it got real dark. But thank God, like Lady J just said, and I feel like today is hashtag a shout out to moms, right? But thank God for my mom, because I was in a spot where I was talking to her on the phone when I was in the deepest part of this, when I was, contemplating suicide, so much so that I had a shotgun, that I was ready. I had the instruments to complete the job. And she lived 45 minutes away. I didn't tell her what I was going to do, but she heard something in my voice. And within 18 minutes, she was at my door. I don't even know how it's physically possible. God must have gave her like a turbo booster, something. But it was my mom. It was her, and it was my dad and my brother after that fishing trip that stayed with me. And it was my friends who loved me. And it was the people who saw in me what I couldn't see in me and had the type of vibe that I needed to be around, that picked me up out of that dark spot. I feel like for every problem, there's a person. And you just have to find that person or people. And thank God for me, I was surrounded by a group of people that got me up, that cared about me enough to pick me up in the first place. And I think, Lady J, to your point, I can imagine how hard it was going through what you went through, because the people that you thought were going to pick you up just left. They just boned. They were just gone. But then to find your tribe, the people that right now you could probably ride or die no matter what, hashtag shout out to moms, the Paulas of the world, the people that really care about you, love you, will lift you up, pick you up, never abandon you. I think that in itself is worth all of the pain that I went through, now that I think about it. So I didn't really have a turning point. I had turning people.
And how about you, Lady J, as Solo talks about those supporters, to his point, you and I are in very similar situations because the people I thought would have had my back were not the people who had my back at all. It was people who didn't even really know me
Mm-hmm.
who invested
Really?
more in, oh, people who didn't know me
Uh-huh.
invested more into me than some of the people I would have expected
Mm.
to have my back. The true colors of your tribe comes out when you're going through trials and tribulations. And that is a great way to determine who stays in your tribe and who leaves
Uh-huh.
your tribe,
Point. That's a
right?
good
Because you
point.
have that. So how about you, Lady J? From a support perspective, did you find that you had to let certain people go and you brought in some new people? Or did you find that maybe this was a time that you just needed to be by yourself and alone and still for a certain amount of time to grow?
Yes. Yes and no. So I definitely did have, my sister, my ride or die. That is my best friend. She has definitely been there for me in so many ways.
Mhm.
Um, so I would absolutely want to give her a shout out because she definitely has helped me out. Um, However, I think it was really important for me to realize that I have to learn to stand on my own 2 feet.
Say that
Mm.
thing there.
I have to learn, or I had to learn, to be able to
Mhm.
stand tall with no one else around me and be comfortable
Mm.
in my truth and in
Mhm.
my own skin, and to be able to function and move forward and thrive on my own. And to know that if anyone else worthy of coming into my circle, that's just sprinkle icing on the cake, if you will.
Yes.
But I had to learn that I needed to be solid myself.
Hmm. Because you are ultimately the foundation, right? You are
Yep.
Mhm.
ultimately, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to love you more than you love yourself.
Right.
It's
I might
true.
have to throw out maybe your parents though, because they did kind of bring you into this world. So maybe, but
Yeah.
you really do need to love yourself because again, I do think sometimes we are put in the position to where nobody is around so that we do deal with ourselves,
Yep.
so that we do that introspection and self-reflection. Because to your point, Lady J, when people who I thought had my back didn't, and I had to learn to rely on my faith, my beliefs, my morals, myself, it actually gave me a sort of inner strength that I got through some things that would have taken people out. I'm still
Mm.
here standing.
Hmm.
So give me what you got, because I've already been through what I consider some of the worst. So give me what you got, and let's keep it going. It gives you that sort of inner strength, that sort of like you said, peace about yourself. And I'm not sitting up here saying this was an easy journey,
Mm-mm.
because even as you go through redemption, you have setbacks because you have triggers, right? You have those things that come up
Yep.
that can take you off course. But I do believe that as you are on that road to redemption and as you've learned things, you have learned when those things show up, how to handle them better,
Mm.
how to not let them affect you in certain ways, how to not let certain energy come into your space, how to not let certain people's words impact how you move, how to not let certain people's perception of you impact how you move. Because I'm here to say, somebody needs to hear this today. A lot of these perceptions people have of you is because they're jealous of you and they're jealous of what you do and
Yep.
who you are and how you move. And they wish they could move like you.
They
They wish
hate
they
you
could
because they ain't you.
navigate like you, but they can't be like you because they haven't been through what you've been through. So therefore, keep shining, my queens and kings, because that's, you've gone through that thing. It's made you stronger. And don't let those haters out there, or those people who are jealous of you, or those people who don't have anything positive to say, take away from your peace, take away from your energy, take away from your shine. Okay, I'm done. I just needed to say that really
No,
quick. I think I
amen.
needed to
Preach
hear that
on,
from me.
Pastor.
I think I need to
Preach
hear that from
on,
me
Pastor.
tonight.
Yeah, preach on. They hate you because they ain't you.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. Vulnerable moment here. So early on in my military career, I was sexually assaulted by someone that I worked with.
In the military?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then after it happened the next day, I couldn't even speak about it because this person had already been like, "Oh yeah, I hit her," and so that had me in a unit with everyone looking at me, like not knowing the actual situation, and I was dying inside. And I did contemplate suicide so far to where I almost did it. And this goes back to having somebody in your corner. So there was an army guy in our dorms, and he spoke. He was funny, but it wasn't like we hung out even occasionally. You know, it was just,
Right.
"Hey,
He was
how are
just
you
some guy.
doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was interesting is that the evening that I was going to commit suicide, he knocked on my door. And I had told no one.
What'd he say?
I contemplated opening the door, and I decided to open the door. And so I opened the door and just kind of cracked it a little bit.
Like, what do you want?
I was in there bawling, slinging snot, like I was a wreck. And he was like, "Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Just wanted to call, just wanted to check on you, see how you were doing."
Dang.
And I was like, "Whoa."
And you just had a conversation and he brought you back?
He brought me, he probably had an idea. He probably had an idea. But I didn't speak of it. But him checking on me when no one else did,
Damn,
brought me back. And I'm so thankful to him for doing that. So
you're inspired. I feel like, you know, it's funny that you say that. Like, God is so good, I feel. Like, thank God that he showed up, right? And he brought you back. And thank God you just said that, because I feel like there's someone that I need to check on. I feel like there's someone I need to check on tonight. And I'm going to check on him for that. So thank you for that, Lady J. And thank whoever his name was. And you may want to hit him up and
Jack,
tell him.
If I ever get to see him again,
If you ever see that brother again, invite him on the podcast.
thank you.
Right.
I gotta switch
meet
my
him,
channel
I never
real
knew
quick.
his last
I'll be right back.
name. Never knew his last name. Jack.
But
so wherever you are, thank you.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story, because when you go through things like that, especially as a female, that is, I don't even think people understand the amount of trauma that is emotionally and mentally, and how that does impact you. Even if you go through, therapy and things of that nature, you again find coping mechanisms, but there could be something that can easily trigger something again that you're not aware of. But we've got about 8 more minutes, and this is what I want to leave the audience with. So as we wait for Chris to fix his connection, I think he said he had to fix and come back, as he's just frozen right there. Okay, so looking back at your journey from rock bottom to where you are now, what advice would you give to someone who is currently facing their own challenges and seeking redemption?
Hold on to where you want to go in life.
Mm.
There are going to be people out there that are going to know your past and know that you aren't who you are today. And they're probably going to cling on to that. But hold fast to your truth
Mm-hmm.
and keep going. You won't be able to see through the storm right now,
Mm-hmm.
but storms don't last forever.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
And so when those clouds clear
Mm-hmm.
and that sun starts to shine, you're going to appreciate, back to what you were saying, Chris, you're going to appreciate it so much more after being through those dark times.
Yep.
So take comfort in knowing that this is not the end
Mm-hmm.
and that it's just the closing of a chapter.
I love that. So, Chris, the last question that we're talking about right now, as you rejoin, is looking back at your journey from rock bottom to where you are now. What advice would you give to someone who's currently facing their own challenges and seeking redemption?
Oh man. Seeking redemption?
Mm-hmm. They want to get out of rock bottom. They're currently at rock bottom or going through the journey of moving from rock bottom to redemption. What advice would you give them as a person who's successfully done this? Not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times, as you stated. What advice would you
Oh, it's
give?
more than that. I got a dozen under my belt. I feel like that's a tough question because, well, there's a couple pieces of advice that I'll give you.
Okay.
The first one is just a basic understanding of just relativity in general, right? Like how our world works, why God made the world in the first place, at least what I think. Like you have to understand what cold feels like to understand what warm feels like. And some of the people that have gone through the worst tragedies have experienced the highest heights. And maybe you're one of those people. Maybe, just maybe, you have something great to do. And the only way to experience the greatness, the high level that you were meant and called for, is by going through this rough place. But you'll never see that best side of you if you don't get through this. You'll never see the best version of your life, the best parts of your life, if you don't get through this. But if you do get through this, when you do get through this, you will see those pieces. So just take solace in all of the wise SARs that say, it's always darkest before the dawn. It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. Beep, beep, beep. All the stuff that you just want to like rip to shreds and punch those people in the face. It's true. They don't say it because it's not true. It's true, but you're not going to feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling like it place, when you don't feel like doing it, you're in a very special position to gain a muscle that not a lot of people develop.
Mm.
That if you do develop it, you will truly be successful in whatever success means to you, best version of you. And that muscle is a muscle of discipline and getting it done and doing your thing. The people that can do the thing that they know they need to do, even when they don't feel like it, are the people that get the things that they really want. I don't feel like going to the gym today, but you go anyway. They get the fitness results, right, Lady J? I don't feel like going to practice, but I'm going anyway. They get the black belts, right, Paula?
Very true.
I don't feel like showing up to the commitments that I made, but I'm going to show up anyway, get the respect and the admiration that they desire. If you don't feel like it and you could do it anyway, you have a heads up on the competition. So when you're in that place that you don't feel like it and you have a good reason not to, do it anyway. What's the plan? What are some things that you can do for yourself? And the third thing is, I would say, kind of ties back into the second thing. Your happiness or lack thereof, at least if you're like me or most humans I know, is directly correlated to your own sense of self-worth. It's correlated to your sense of your own self-somebodiness And when we have these terrible things, we hit rock bottom because of a poor decision of our own. Or people that we care about leave us and we don't feel good enough, right? Or you have that scarlet letter and feel like you're in a category that's just shameful, right? You have this sense of self-worth that's crap. It's terrible. And you feel crap and terrible. And I found that increasing your sense of self-worth, you could do it twofold. One, being surrounded by people that tell you who you are. Constant exposure will always result in some form of contamination. If you hang out with the dope boys long enough, you're going to do the dope. You hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. You hang around people who love you and tell you you're somebody, you're going to feel like somebody soon enough. But if you don't have that, your own sense of doing the things that you say you're going to do and doing hard things you say you're going to do will give you that sense of self-worth. I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to go to the gym. Lady J started a fitness journey, and it was hard. You don't just start a fitness journey without being sore and without being beat up and have the empire that you've built without there being some bumps and bruises along the way. That's hard. And doing that hard thing probably gave you a sense of self-worth. You look in the mirror and you say, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the things that you've done. So you don't need anybody if you don't have anybody. If you do have anybody, it's easier. It's a shortcut. It's better for all of us to hurt a little than for you to hurt a lot. But if you're out there and you don't have nobody, you have you. But you need to do what you need to do, and you know what that is. There's always one thing that you should probably put down and one thing that you should probably pick up, and you know what that is. Even in your darkest of days, you know what that is. And if you could put that thing down or you could pick that thing up, you'll feel a little bit better about who you are and that thing, that image looking back in the mirror, and it'll get you to the next day. You do that one day at a time. You look back over a course of time, and you'll be saying the same thing I said. I started from the bottom, now I'm here. I started from a box spring, now I'm Tempur-Pedic, whatever you want to call it, right?
Agreed. And I would say to sort of add on to what both of you all have said, I don't know how much more I can really add on. Take it one day at a time.
Yep.
Do not try and rush it, and be very intentional on who you surround yourself with, because when you're at the point of rock bottom, you don't need people in your ear who are going to feed into that negative energy. You need people in your ear who are going to motivate you and encourage you, but will also be honest and transparent with you help you get out of that situation. Because sometimes we don't want to hear the truth, but you have to hear that truth, and sometimes that truth hurts.
Yeah.
But you have to hear it in order to get out of it. So be really intentional on who you surround yourself with and the environments that you enter into, because that can really, really dictate how long this journey is going to be for you, or if you even get to redemption. It's really, really important. Well, thank you for this convo. This was deep.
It's good.
Yeah, this was a good conversation. I do want to throw up here really quick. I know our other guest wasn't able to make it, but of course we've had Lady J on before, but I do want to throw up here. Go ahead and give her a follow. She does it better than me. Look, I do motivations on a Monday and a Wednesday. Lady J be doing motivations Monday through Sunday. I think she make up some days in there. Every time I go on TikTok, she be up there trying to get somebody motivated to do something. TikTok or Insta, you will get a dose of motivation for Lady J. Positive. That's what you need in your life. Those positive affirmations as well. And hopefully we will have Coldsaint on at some point. He has an amazing story as well. And hopefully we'll be able to have him join. And of course, definitely you can follow Chris and I. Well, really me, because Chris isn't on social.
I'm a ninja.
Anymore.
I hit the smoke bomb and I disappear after these. If you would like to hear from your boy Solo, you can come on to the Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real podcasts and come hang out with us here. Yes.
For me, though, you can catch me all over social. So, and I do love likes and comments and engagement. So please definitely connect with us. Let's keep this conversation going. Or even if you just need us to be in that tribe for you.
Yep.
Because you don't have anybody else and you just need somebody to be in the tribe who has been through you've heard the stories today. You've heard what we've all been through. And so if you need us to be that source for you, You get us on social. I have no problem motivating or encouraging someone to reach your full potential, because we all have a purpose in this world. And so with that, that's a wrap, y'all. That is a wrap. Again, for each one, reach one and teach one. We'll be back in September. Don't know the topic yet, but we'll be back in September with some more wonderful wisdom. And Solo and Lady J stay on after our little minor closeout commercial break. But thank you all for joining. We definitely appreciate you. And we will talk to you next time.
Love you, family.